Hey everyone, welcome to the Middle School Visual Arts PLC group. My name is Alicia Montgomery and I'm the moderator here. I am so glad that you joined our community. It was really created with you in mind. Our goal is to collaborate and support each other as we navigate the craziness through teaching middle school visual arts. Whether you're the only one in your system or one of many, we know that you're going to find things here to help you. In order to make this as beneficial as possible for everyone, be sure to set up your notifications and check back often to see post discussions and support that we've included. Please engage with us so that we can help each other out. Make sure you participate in our discussion questions and check back for our posts and share this with your friends and colleagues as well. So this session is talking about ceramics, and this is the third session in this series, and it is going to deal with glazing. And we created a Japanese tea bowl in the second part, and so now we're going to glaze those Japanese tea bowls. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how I set that up and also how I demonstrate that to my students. So one of the things that I have when I set up my glaze is I have a board like this, and it's just a piece of plywood that I had my ag teacher attached to the wall for me with concrete screws. And then I have all my glaze samples attached to it. I can take those down, so you'll see I've got a few missing. Those are colors that we've used up for the year or that we can't get anymore, and so I'll take those labels off sometimes and replace them or update them. And I make them where they can take these off so that we can do that easily. I have it divided up into, there's a food safe section and a non-food safe section. I have like the glazes that have some kind of texture to them, or the ones that are like stroking coats. So this is a little bit more close up of my glaze samples. So it'll say food safe on the side, or it'll say non-food safe. And then underneath it'll have the name of the color. And then students can take these off and look at the back, and it'll have the type of glaze, the color of the glaze, and then what it needs to be fired at. Okay, on the front, the number in the top right-hand corner represents how many coats of glaze they need to put on their clay piece to get the results that are on the sample. You know, so many times when you paint the glaze on, it doesn't look like what it looks like when it's fired again. And so for my middle school students, that really is hard for them to kind of pick a color without seeing examples. So I go ahead and make these for my students, and then I show them an example of, okay, this is what the glaze looks like in the jar, but this is what it's going to look like when it's fired. So that way they can make a better choice about what colors they want to use and have a better idea of how it's going to turn out for them. So when we talk about glazing, I just go over it really briefly. We talk about when you get your clay piece back, it's going to be called bisware because it's been fired and it's not glazed yet. And then we're going to put our glaze on. And we talk about the term glaze literally means glass former. And it's applied to pottery so that it actually seals your clay. And once it's been glazed, it's called glazeware. I also talk to them about the difference in food safe and non-food safe glazes and why that's important. I do explain to them that once we finish with this, if they use a food safe glaze, which I make them for this project, then they can eat or drink out of it. They can treat it just like they do their dishes at home. They can eat out of it, drink out of it, put it in the microwave, put it in the dishwasher. And so they get really excited when we talk about all of that. So then I show them how to actually glaze their piece. And this is the demonstration that I showed to them. All right, so today we're going to be glazing your tea bowls. So when you get it back, it'll look something like this. All right, you're going to look at our glaze samples on our board, and they will look like this. All right, the 3 represents the number of layers that you need to do. And this is what it'll look like when it's finished. All right, on the back is the brand and the name of the brand and the name of the glaze. And remember, when you paint it on today, it's not going to be just like this.
So you're going to check your glaze, make sure that you got the right kind. So this is Crystal Tech, and then this is the color. So you want to make sure you match those up. All right, then we're going to take your glaze, and we're just going to paint it on. You can paint it on kind of thick. We're going to paint it all over the inside. And make sure we paint it on the lip. And then we're going to paint it on the outside. And this first layer is going to dry really fast because the clay is porous and it's dry, so it's going to suck up all the moisture from the glaze. Now some of the glazes may have little rocks in them, little chunks. That's okay. Some of the glazes have special effects, and that's what will cause those. So those are okay. Don't try to brush them off or take them out. All right, I'm going to glaze everything except for the bottom of my foot. I'm not going to glaze this part. So if I do, it'll stick to the kiln shelf. All right, so as this first layer dries, you can see that I missed a spot. Get that? All right, you can see where it's still wet is the shiny areas, and then where it's dry is the area where it's looking kind of white right now. Once the whole thing is this color, all right, then you're going to put a second layer on top. All right, then you'll put a second layer on top, let it dry, and then do a third layer. All right. Don't do more than 3 layers. If you do more than 3, it may run down and stick to the kiln shelf. And I'll have to take a screwdriver and pry it off, and it will break. So make sure you keep up with how many layers you do. After each layer, I recommend that my students usually take something to write with and just mark it on the edge of your paper. So I've done layer 1. All right, so now that this is dry, I'm going to go back and I'm going to paint my second layer on top. Make sure that you're covering up all the color of your clay and that you're looking at it from different angles. That way you don't miss any spots. Because anything that's not covered will not be sealed when you get finished. And then glaze all the outside. Remember, don't do the bottom. I'm going to set this down and do the edge of my outside. And then I'll wait and let that dry. Remember, when you finish your second layer, mark it on your page again so you can keep up with how many layers that you've done. So I can tell I've got 2 layers marked. All right, and there's just a few little spots now that are still a little bit wet, so I'm going to go ahead and do my third layer. Remember, all of the inside. Make sure you're looking at it from different angles. And then once you get this third layer on, you're just going to raise your hand and I will come take it up. You don't have to wait for it to dry. And I'll go ahead and put these on the drying rack. And so they can dry and I can put them back in the kiln again. All right, and you'll see these in 2 or 3 days.
Thank you for joining us. Please take a few minutes to participate in the discussion question. I can't wait to hear all your wonderful ideas and share some of my own. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any updates, posts, discussions, or any of the fun.